Aion 2 launched over 2 weeks ago in Taiwan and Korea, and I had a chance to play it in Taiwan for over 30 plus hours. I played different classes, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about the strong points of the game and the weaknesses, giving you guys a review if the game is worth playing, if it does come out globally. Now, I'm not going to spend too much time talking about the monetization. You know how I feel about the monetization. I'm not happy with it, but there's already a lot of videos covering that. In this video, I'm going to be talking generally about the core mechanics of the game, the dungeons, the gameplay, the combat, the class balancing, the PvP, the PvE, all that good stuff, so you guys can get a feel and understanding of the game. So let's just jump into it. You guys have been asking me what VPN do I use, what software do I use to play Aion 2, and by far, this is the best. A GearUp booster, you guys can use my code SPID. The link will be in the description below, but it's so easy to use and it works really well. If you guys are playing on Taiwan, you can just click into this Aion 2. It's just straight on their homepage, and you will see that your game right here plays so smooth. I don't have any issues when fighting bosses or having any trouble dodging certain things. It reduces my ping by far. Out of all the other VPNs I've tried, it is the best in my opinion. So if you guys are looking to play Aion 2, or you're trying, it will work like this. You're also boosting to purple, super easy to use, and you will make it very straightforward. It auto selects it for you. It auto changes the boost settings, and that's it. Straight up, very easy. And if you guys need to get into the game through mobile, it also has a tutorial for you guys to check out the game through GearUp Booster. So make sure you guys check it out. I'll put the link for the description below. And yeah, use my code to get more bonuses and discounts. And they also have a free trial, so check it out. Thanks to GearUp Booster for sponsoring this video, guys. First thing we're going to talk about is the questing inside of the game. Now, you will have a main quest line that you're going to be following, and you have this open world where you're going to be seeing a lot of these players running around when you're actually questing. The max level is 45, and the main way to get to 45 will be through doing the main quest. There are some side quests, but following the main quest is basically the best way to actually level up inside of the game. Now, the main quest in itself, I won't say it's anything special. It's the typical type of questing that you will see in an MMORPG. You'll be running around from a quest to quest, either through auto pathing or flying or gliding and picking up a quest, defeating some monsters, defeating some mobs, and just doing the basic stuff. So nothing really innovative there, or anything special. The one thing I did, though, really enjoy about the questing inside of the game is the bosses. So the bosses actually felt difficult and fun to do. They felt challenging every time you came through a quest line and you came to a place where you had to enter either a dungeon or whatever. You had to fight a boss fight, and sometimes I actually got my ass beat, which is really good to see, because in most typical mobile slash PC games, you will see that the mobs are pretty easy, or the bosses are pretty easy, and the questing is pretty easy. So it was a little bit of fun of challenge, but you won't see anything super unique or different when you're actually questing. But you will have to kind of learn how your class works. Eventually, you want to make sure you're leveling up your gear and your character and your skills, or you cannot actually progress throughout these different bosses. So when it comes to the combat itself, or the leveling itself, nothing really crazy, but really fun fights here and there. So you definitely will feel that difficulty when you're actually leveling up. And if you're struggling, there will be side quests and other things that you guys can do to level up. But the day and the leveling takes about a day if you're super hardcore, all the way up to like four days, depending on your speed. You can also already start leveling up your gear and all the other stuff while you're questing, but the main focus should be getting through with your main quest line. And when it comes to the world itself, the world is absolutely gorgeous and beautiful. It has so many good looking places when you're traveling around the world, and the characters looks incredible, and the whole open world feel to it, where you're seeing players running around, flying around. It's just a great experience. There's no channels or things like that. However, when you are exploring, there are some really strong points, and I will say some also not that good, because it is such an amazing world, but I feel like they're not actually taking advantage of all the stuff that the game has to offer. Like, you will look at the open world and you look at some cool places around the world, which you will think there will be things there to do, but I feel like they kind of dropped the ball there. Like, if you go to a place and you think it's gonna be some hidden exploration or cave, you're gonna be disappointed at times, unfortunately. But the one thing that exploration does really good is there's a lot of collectibles around the world. So you'll be flying around the world and you'll be collecting feathers. There's over 500 feathers, which is in your side of the map, and then you just and then there's gonna be additional exploration on the enemy side, faction side. But for the feathers itself, the feathers are super crucial, and you will have enough time to actually go around and fly around to find these feathers. Some are underneath the water, some are in the sky. There's already interactive maps if you want to use those to find these feathers, but they're really important for progression that we're going to talk about later. Now, aside from feathers and stuff, when it comes to exploration, you will also have these question marks around the map. Now, the question marks are actually hidden, undiscovered dungeon areas. Sealed dungeons is what they're called. And it's going to be part of your exploration. You'll be going into these question marks, completing the boss fights, and the exploration in itself, in my opinion, is pretty fun when it comes to the feathers and stuff. I just feel like at times it could be lackluster, and that they could have definitely used more of the world to make things more exciting than just being able to farm these feathers and find these undiscovered areas. And some of these undiscovered areas will be boss fights, some will be puzzles, and things like that. So it is really exciting. And then the exploration when it comes to the enemy rift side, where you will travel around the map, you will have to actually find sealed dungeons there too. Now, this is a little bit more difficult, but we get back into that later. So the overall exploration, I think, definitely has some really good potential, but there's enough to do, especially early game when you're trying to grind, trying to find these feathers and these sealed dungeons. You feel like you actually have to do these things, and there's like over 500 feathers, so there's enough time to spend just exploring. Now, the core of the game is definitely combat. Combat, in my opinion, when it comes to MMORPGs, is super important that it's done right. Now, the combat in this game at times feels really good, but at other times feels super clunky, and it doesn't seem like it's going the direction that they kind of wanted it to go. Now, the skill system, I'm really a big fan of inside of the game. I think they did it really well. The skill system is based on certain skills that you can macro together. So, example right here, I have these different skills here, which is, for example, my Mocking Blade. My Mocking Blade, what it does is when I use the Mocking Blade right here, it will actually knock them down, which it lets me activate my next skill, which is this Overhead Slam. It says Overhead Slam. You will select a knockdown target within 4 meters, and it will deal damage. So you have to actually knock them down. So what you can do is you can macro the Mocking Blade, I mean the Overhead Slam into the Mocking Blade. So when I use the Mocking Blade, I can activate my Overhead Slam, and then I can eventually activate my Aerial Snare, which also can CC and knock down targets. So you can macro skills together. So when I, for example, use them in battle right here, hopefully I don't kill this in one shot, you will see when I use this skill, it will follow up with my Overhead Slam. So you can actually macro these skills together, which makes the content and certain fights, in my opinion, pretty fun and good to use. So if you have like good combinations that you want to use, you can like kind of macro them together in the skill bar, and they kind of want to make sure that you use skills and combinations that follow up with the stuff that you actually have to do. What I mean with that is they want you to make sure that you're using skills that are, need knockdown effects to be used to optimize your DPS. Certain things like this skill will give me more CC, and it will give you more defenses. And then you have this other system, which is the leveling of the skills, is super important. Some skills are very static skills. So when you use certain of these skills, you cannot actually move. However, like for example, this skill, which has Ruinous Blow, when you look at the camera right here, you will see that this skill you can use not while moving, but if you level it up to level 12 or level 8, you can actually put these runes or specialties inside of these. Now, what this will do is you can change it to a mobile skill. So now I can actually move while using this skill, or I can make sure that I don't want the mobile skill and I want more damage and more buff duration when I use this skill, right? So you can do this with a lot of these different skills, which could be really useful when you're doing certain fights, such as boss fights or PvP. You can change around these skills to make sure that they use it in that correct way. So another skill right here, we will have the stagger skill, which is one of the strongest skills that you will have when a boss is staggered. You can pop this on, and this you can do the exact same thing. You can either put the specialty where you will change it to a mobile skill, or it restore mana, or all skill cooldowns will be reduced. So things like that, I think, is a really cool way to make sure that you can activate and level your skills up and make some different combinations. And then you have your 4 stigma skills, which you have to do basically seal dungeons in a different area to gain stigmas. And then this will level up your stigma skills, and you can do the exact same thing with them. But when they level up, they will just unlock these different things which will let you upgrade your stigma skills. So I do think the skill system and the way they did it is really good. It's just the execution of certain skills doesn't feel as good, and a lot of them look very similar. So when you're fighting inside a dungeon fight or a boss fight, a lot of these skills look very simple and normal. You'll have your right click, which is what uses your mana when you have skills on cooldown, and you have your left click, which is basically making sure that you have mana that you can use while fighting, and you need that mana to be able to use your normal skills. So at times, some skills look really good and feel really good, and the combination feel good, but certain skills just look very like it feels like my character is just normal attacking at times when I'm actually using a cool skill. Like for example, this skill right here, which is my whirlwind. It looks super basic. It doesn't feel like I'm doing a different skill. It looks very similar to my ankle slash, which is also a circle, and it doesn't feel as impactful in my opinion. And certain skill is game is fully tap target, and you definitely feel the tap target when you're playing classes like Gladiator, because you can't actually use any skills inside of the game unless you have a target. So if I want to use my charge or leap ability, I can't really use my leap ability without a target or try to get away with it. So it does feel like when it comes to the melee classes, super tap targety. It does have action combat that you guys can use when you're fighting, but it's just like more of an action combat camera. The game is a full-on fledged tap target game. So they definitely could have improved, and hopefully they improve the combat a little bit for the global launch. But I do like the skill specialty, the way you can build your skills. I do feel that that's a really strong point when it comes to the game. Now, when you hit level 45, you will unlock the end game. Yes, the end game is where you will be able to do most of the content inside of the game, which is going to be your dungeons, which you have expeditions. You'll have all of these different things. So we got to talk about this and what these things do. Now, when you hit max level, you want to be starting to grind your gear. The most of your gear will be coming through running your dungeons. Now, the dungeons will have a chance to give you these gear. Now, I gotta be honest, the drop rate for these are really low. So when you do this, and the last boss has a 7.5% chance to drop you this item. And to do dungeons, you're kind of locked behind energy. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of that. You lock behind energy. However, you can farm 14 of these dungeons, so it makes you farm them. I actually farmed them a couple times of 14, and then you're guaranteed a drop chat or drop at least, but the drop rate are absolutely horrible. But you have to grind them, and you have to get these gears, and then you will basically increase your combat power by running these dungeons. So you'll have dungeons, 4-man dungeons. I think the dungeons are the strongest point inside of the game. They're hard, they're difficult, they feel fun to do. And then additional to dungeons, you have other type of dungeon runs, which is like your transcendent runs. The transcendent runs has different stages, but this is basically you have to defeat the mobs and the monsters and the bosses by a time limit to get the best rewards. The higher ranking you get, the better you are on the leaderboard, and the better rewards you do get. So these are really fun to do, and the content just gets harder. But eventually, when you've done them, all you can do is just increase the stages and the difficulty of it. Right now, there's 2 of these when it comes to Transcendent, and they will give you different rewards. And then we have Nightmare Dungeon, which is a solo boss dungeon. So the solo boss dungeons, you enter this solo bosses, and you can do fights with these bosses, and they also have a ranking system and a time limit. So if you can defeat them in time, you can get really good rewards, which you can use inside of the shop to gain either more growth, skill stones, deviation crystals for your attributes, and wings. So many ways of content to do. And then we have Ascension Trial, which is also another difficulty thing which you can do for rankings and some rewards. And then we have the daily dungeons, which is basically a solo mob farm dungeon, which you have different stages to get different rewards. So and then additionally, you have the raid too. So they have a lot of content. Now you are gated bit behind some of this content where you actually need tickets to be able to enter certain things to get different rewards. So you are at times time gated, but there's enough in the game to do that you always feel like you can keep yourself busy, especially in the start. But PvE wise, there's a bunch of content to do, and I do think that is the strongest point of the game is the PvE aspect of it, because there's so much PvE content and you have access to. But again, you're limited when it comes to the tickets and the way you get juice. But I do wish that the drop rates were a little bit better. so you could feel like you're actually progressing throughout my runs and everything that I have done. I've done like 20, 30 dungeons. I actually never seen a single drop. I've only gotten drops by getting the 14 chest through the pity. So the drop rates, in my opinion, are pretty horrible. Now, aside from PvE, you will have PvP inside of the game. The PvP is at points very crucial, and if, from my experience so far, the PvP hasn't been really fun for many because you do get clapped by people that have high gear score or have some PvP gear and have some early advantage through monetization and pay to win. But the game does have a lot of PvP to offer. You have the arenas, which is mainly dominated by melee classes for now. You can look at the rankings too. You will see that most of them are like Templar or Gladiators, mainly PvP. There's some Ranger stuff that can do good, but very dependent on your gear and your PvP gear that you can farm inside the Abyss. Abyss is this other thing, which is an open world map where you enter, where you can farm mobs to get a PvP gear. So you'll be farming these, be able to get this to make you stronger in PvP. And it's an open world area, so you want to stack with the team, farm it. You have certain hours a day, which will let you grind and farm the Abyss. Now, aside from the arena and the Abyss, you also have Battleground or Battlefields, which is an 8v8 PvP mode, which is like a Battlefield type of mode. And then you have what I talked about earlier, which is the Rift. Certain times a day, rifts open, which will let you travel to the enemy faction's map. Yes. And when you're on that map, you can do exploration by doing the sealed dungeons. You can farm mobs. You can complete quests. There's a lot of things to do in the enemy side. However, if you get defeated, you get knocked all the way out unless you have one of these teleports that you can put there, or revive stones, which will let you revive there a few times unless it gets broken. And that has been a really good experience because people are just camping everywhere, waiting for you with a group of several players. You really cannot progress any of the content inside the rift, so hopefully they make it a little bit better. But in my opinion, it's a very exciting aspect of the game because you have to do all of these sealed dungeons. The same you guys see on my map right here, you will see I have all of these question marks, and then I've finished these question marks. It turns to a circle right here. You have to do this sealed dungeons. You can see on my left side, my progression. I have to do this on the other enemy side too. So it's kind of crazy. So it's high risk, high reward, and it gives a bunch of good rewards if you can do there, and you get Abyss currency, which you need for PvP gear. But it's while it's one of the most exciting things inside of the game, I just think the way it's executed and the way they have done it inside of the game is not really fun. The way that you can just insta get smashed. Certain classes can one-shot me because they have really high gear score and PvP gear, and they've gotten the advantage. I just feel like it's not really fun aspect for now to do it, and it feels not really rewarding when you enter rifts and you do one dungeon and then a team of 4 is just waiting for you outside there and just insta smashing you. So hopefully they do changes to the rift, but I do think the rift is one of the fun aspects and innovative things that Aion 2 actually does. So that is the PvP aspect of the game. Now, the way to progress inside of the game, there are many, many ways to progress inside of the game. You have gear progression, which is your base gear that you want to level up. And then you have the enchantment system where you have to upgrade that gear. And then you have to roll the right stats, which makes it really RNG gambling based. And then you have Arcana cards, which can also give you extra stats. You have your wings, which give you additional extra stats. You have your titles will also give you stats and stuff like that. You have your skill progression where you have to make sure that you're leveling up your skills. You have your stigma skills that you also have to level up. And then on top, I know it's getting a lot and it's a lot. Then you have your deviation, which you will also get by doing certain things inside of the game, which will let you get attributes, but also level up your skill level. So here you will see that I'm actually leveling up certain of my skill levels by doing this, like by leveling up your deviation. So you do have that. Then you have your exploration, which you talked about earlier, which is your wings or feathers that you collect. And then you go to your main monolith in each city, and this will also give you more stats and bonuses when you're actually leveling up. And then you have your PvP gear progression too, which is your main PvP gear, which you will also be leveling up and enchanting. When you look at the enchanting system, you have all the way up to plus 10. Is going to be no fails, but after plus 10 you actually can fail, but it doesn't break. It's just RNG based. But your two emblems right here, the Clash of Runes that you have, they actually break when leveling up. But all the other things, you just have a lower chance. Your enchantment materials, it's extremely important inside of the game. The enchantment materials is how you will level up most of your gear and how you will level up more and get the plus 10, plus 11 on all your gear. And then you have the mana stones, which is an RNG roll on your item right here, which you can RNG roll. So for example, here I can try to roll to see if I can get like some double green stats or even a blue stat, right? There's the RNG roll right here. You have a Theo Stone that you can put inside of here for extra stats. And then you have Soul Binding, which is the super RNG based. This Soul Binding set is this. This can actually give you skill +1. So my impact hit is actually a skill that I use. So if you go here to my skill, you will see that my impact hit right here is level 6. It's usually level 5, but because I have rolled that on my pants right here as my soul binding, I have a +1. So you want to be rolling skills on here and stats for you, and the soul binding rate is very low. So it is extremely RNG based. And that's why the monetization and that way that you can pay to win it through the auction house is super broken. But we're not going to be talking about the monetization. But in my opinion, there's so many things and upgrade stuff that you need in this game that it feels super overwhelming at times. So when you do certain content, like this will have a chance to give you Theostones, and it has a chance to give you cards. Then when you do your daily dungeons, they will give you your enchantment stones. When you do expedition dungeons, they will give you your gear. And then when you do your raids, they will give you enchantment stones. So everything in the game will give you things to progress your character. Then you have your Shugo Festival events, which happens twice an hour. Now this can give you both gear and it can give you upgrade materials. So at the end of the day, there's always things inside of the game that will progress your character in some type of way. However, in my opinion, there's a lot of stuff that you need to do, and it does feel overwhelming at times. So hopefully what I'm hoping for global launch is maybe they might time gate stuff a little bit more. I know I hate time gating in general, but I do think time gating stuff inside of the game could be very healthy for the game, so people cannot progress through everything, because they did talk about that people progressing a little bit too fast because they have access to all type of content. So most of the people are getting huge advantages over other players. So that'll be really interesting how they'll deal with this. But progress wise, I do think it is a little bit too much. Important topic that we've got to talk about is the performance of the game. Now, the performance, unfortunately, like I mentioned earlier, is the game is a mobile ported to PC. Instead of a PC developed game, it feels mobilely at times. While the graphics are absolutely phenomenal and the characters look good and the world looks absolutely amazing, the overall rendering and the FPS and the UI just looks super outdated. And now this can be fixed and optimization is definitely needed, but at times when you are flying in certain places, especially if you're in the enemy rift areas, you cannot always render in enough players because the game just doesn't let you. It's not optimized to. You get a lot of lag spike at times. There's a lot of bugs and issues inside of the game that people have struggling with. There's responsiveness isn't exactly there. Of course, that also because of the ping issues that we're having. But I just think that the whole mobile ported into PC has not been well optimized. I think they kind of rushed the client a little bit. I think the game definitely needed another year before being ready to be played. And that's why there's been a lot of small issues and bugs with skills, with the auction house, and just the overall performance is just not there. And the definitely need a little bit more work. So hopefully when it releases globally, the game will be a little bit more optimized. We'll have a better UI and that it will fix most of the bigger issues. Now the quality of life inside of the game, I think, is pretty bad. They need a lot of improvements. The first thing we can start talking about is the buffs in general. You have to buy a lot of these scrolls for buffs, and they only last 5 minutes and they disappear on death, which is, in my opinion, pretty insane. You have to keep buffing yourself every 5 minutes, making sure that you're wasting your currency. And it just becomes super annoying at times. And I don't know why, like, they don't do like most games where you have like a food buff that lasts for 30 minutes and they don't disappear on this. So you have to continuously buy consumables. You have to buy teleport scrolls. You have to make sure you're buying all of these things, potions, all that stuff, all the time, and it just becomes super tiresome. And it just feels like this game is from 2000s. Like we're playing in 2026. This shouldn't be a thing that you have to think about all the time when you're playing. The navigation inside of the game is scuffed at times when it comes to pinning and stuff. You have to like click on the map pin, and then you have to go to a different place. And then you have to try to place your map pin down. And then you have to remove it. It's just super scuffy. I usually use pins in most of the things that I do when I play games, because sometimes when the navigation back, you have to use it. But in this game, I just can't be bothered to use pins in general. And then you have the flying. I think the flying is way too short of stamina. You can increase your stamina bar eventually, but I just feel like when you have to get to places, you just barely have any flying stamina, which I don't know is limited. I think it's mainly limited because of PvP, and I do think if you're in combat, what they can do with the flying is that they can limit it a little bit when you're in combat, but when you're not in combat, you should be able to fly for a much longer time, in my opinion. Like it's super scuffy. And then it comes to the matchmaking itself for the dungeon, which should be like a base thing because PvE is so important inside of the game. I think the matchmaking is extremely scuffy. You can't just invite people. You have to actually create rooms. Then you have to invite people when through names or certain things. Then when you leave, you have to actually leave your party. You have to remake the party. And I just think the matchmaking for a game like this of this, if massive AAA game should not have such a scuffy matchmaking system in general. So I do think they definitely dropped the ball with the matchmaking, and hopefully this thing will be fixed eventually. The party finder thing also just feels very outdated, and the UI feels outdated, and there's a bunch of bugs and issues in general in the game. When you're navigating through, it takes forever when you're navigating because sometimes you have to fly. Character doesn't know where he's going. So many like small things. It's like, yeah, just explain to you guys what the quality of life problems are, but there's a lot of them. That's why I'm meaning that the game is releasing way too early. So hopefully they will work on this, and when we get like the global release, it will feel much better. Now, I don't want to dive too deep into monetization. I already made a bunch of videos on it, but I gotta mention a few things. The monetization in this game is absolutely horrible. It's one of the worst monetization systems that I've seen in newer times. Everything from the subscription to the buying gear to being able to access the auction house with paying and the gear difference that people get, because unfortunately inside of the game, your stats isn't the only thing that matters. Your gear score actually matters. So your gear score actually gives you way bigger advantages inside of the game over other players, which is absolutely insane. So just leveling your gear score will actually give you these hidden stats, which will make you just stronger than other players. So a lot of focus around getting high gear score, and everything is, they want you to pay. They want you to pay to win, so you can get all this access. So if they release with this monetization system, is definitely dead on arrival. But I do think that they will not release this globally with this monetization systems. Now, in general, if I'm gonna give you guys an honest opinion of the game, there are definitely some strong points when I'm playing this game. I do enjoy certain things inside of the game, like farming dungeons are fun at times. Doing these hard challenges are fun at times. The PvP in general, the combat in PvP does not feel good. The difference in gear does not feel good. The whole gearing up systems feel good at times, but there's just so much of it. The world and everything looks absolutely stunning and beautiful, but I do think the game released way too early. I think they needed at least another year to make it good, and that's why I'm hoping that the global launch might be a really fun experience for most of us, hopefully, but definitely not close to being ready at all. And I do think if I'm gonna give it an honest take, I would say it will be another Throne and Liberty type of game. Even though I do think Throne and Liberty is better in many ways and aspects compared to this game and has better systems, it gives me a lot of similar vibes to Throne and Liberty, from the combat to the world. And again, NCSoft made both games. So if you're looking for a game or MMO to play, Aion 2 could be a good option for you to try out and check out. But I don't think it will survive for a long time or be a game that people will look back to and be like, hey, this is going to be extremely fun. But I do think as an MMO enjoyer or MMORPG enjoyer, it's a game that I would check out at least and see, hopefully, that they will make some really good changes. But that is my overall review of Aion 2. While it does have some strong points, it's just not ready. unfortunately. And while I am having fun, I don't see me lasting that long in Korea unless they make it more friendly for people that are not spending too much, because the monetization and the PvP is just unplayable. And the class balancing, everything is just not there. And all of this time gating with all of these currencies and stuff, and the shops, there's so many shops inside of the game. Everything that you do, there's dungeons or PvP or transcendent dungeons, everything has its own shop, everything has its own items, and there's just so hard to progress at certain times. But it is fun. I'm not gonna lie, I had fun playing it, and I'm definitely gonna be checking out it some more and probably give you guys my 100-hour review of the game if I can get so far. But let me know what you guys think, and check out a GearUp booster in the description below. Check us here right here, and I'll see you guys next time.